Last week on Cooking with Ryan. White rice. Well, we know how to make white rice now, and we have leftover white rice. So what do we do with it? We make a fried rice. You gotta use day-old rice for this. If you're gonna make something fresh, you gotta use a lot less water when you're cooking. Instead of the 3 cups I suggested before, you wanna do maybe 2.5 at most. There's infinite variations. In this case, I'm gonna make one as close as I can make to a Canton style. Let's give the kitchen a quick wipe and get started. There's no shortage of ingredients you can use on this. It's basically whatever you have lying around, but I'm gonna use some pretty standard ones here. In this case, an onion, green onions, and then some carrots and peas. Nothing much. I think I made this one vegetarian because I'm cooking for me and my girl right now, but it's not hard to add ground meat to it, sliced meat to it, basically whatever you want. A lot of you guys might not have any knife skills, so we're going to go through a quick primer on this one right now. If you don't know how to sharpen your knife, just make sure you do it. This is just some cheap IKEA one, doesn't really matter. You want to split your onion down the middle, right at that root piece there. Take off the skin. Put a bunch of slices in there vertically so you don't cut all the way through the onion. The idea is that root is going to hold everything together. You want to tuck your fingers in and use your knuckles to guide your knife as you cut it across. As you can see here, slice it lengthwise, then slice it horizontally, and you're going to end up with some nice diced vegetables. Carrots, again, pretty straightforward. The heart that's in the middle is going to be fairly rough, but give it a nice slice down the middle here. Cut it again so you end up with a quarter of it. Take off the root piece, like so. And then all you got to do is that same technique with the onion, tuck your fingers underneath your knuckles and use it to guide your hand. And then as you make that nice chopping motion there, move your hand back slightly so that way you get even cut pieces. Ideally, you want the onions, the carrots, everything to be about the same size so it all cooks approximately at the same time. There's really not much to this. Just a matter of practice. Ginger, a lot of people end up using a peeler to it, but I'm like, it's so cheap, whatever. So I just cut pieces off of it until I get a generally exposed one. I don't like having any of that bark in food, and I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to. And then, like I said, same technique. Tuck your knuckles in. Give it a slice one direction. Give it a slice the other direction. I like making these ones a lot smaller. Ideally, you don't want big chunks of garlic in your food, so slice them the same that you would do garlic. In this case, like I said, just small enough that it feels like, I don't know, small little pebbles, I guess. You just eyeball it. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Same thing here. You bundle them up together, tuck your fingers in, slice across. You want to put it slightly on the bias because if you cut it perfectly perpendicular, they're going to end up super round and rolling off your cutting board. So that small bias keeps everything where it's supposed to be. Get yourself a nice wok. Give it a fancy flip, that makes things taste better. You want to turn this up to high heat. Add some oil to it, something with a nice high smoke point. In this case, I'm using peanut oil, but you can get away with so many different types. I think the classic one you'd want to use is rapeseed oil. Give it a quick stir. Once you got this thing nice and piping hot, just before the smoke point, you're going to start adding your vegetables. Start with the ones that take the longest to cook, in this case, the onions, and then over time, you start adding more. So we'll start with the onions, then add the carrots, and then the peas and the ginger at the end. I know a lot of people like doing ginger and garlic first, but in this case, they're so easy to cook through, you really want to save those for the end and just enough to heat them through, which will add a really nice flavor to this thing at the end. For topics, there's not really much to talk about. I know in this time right now, I jokingly refer to it as the people coming to terms with the death of Kenny Rogers, but you know what we're talking about. A lot of people are panicking. A lot of people are stressed. A lot of people are watching the news and hanging on every word these people are talking about. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's all hogwash. We have a fairly serious event right now, and we have some fairly practical things we can do, and everybody is scaremongering. And the problem is, it's like a virus. You're going to have Karen from next door trying to get Karen inside your house to panic because it reflects her panic. Everybody likes to know that they're feeling what they're supposed to feel, and other people doing it is how you get there. In this case, you do some prep work. I mean, I've been on live streams with Rollo Tomasi, a couple guys from the old forums, and you've heard how we talk about this thing. If you're worried about things that have an unknown value to them, just realize for the most part, a lot of this stuff you can't change, and so the panic doesn't really help. Right now, we're doing our best to keep Grandpa and Grandma kicking along here. So we're staying home, we're learning how to cook, and you're learning how to cook right here. At this point, the worst thing you can do is be a bad reflection for your family. And girls, for the most part, take the lead from the man in their life if they truly love them. And if they don't, well, I got other videos on that. Add some of the lighter stuff here, cook them through. Alternatively, by the way, something you can do is pre-fry the green onions in a nice dry heat. There's a name for it, but I can't pronounce it. It's kind of neat and adds a little bit of sweetness to this that you wouldn't otherwise notice. Back to panic. Your woman is generally a reflection of you, and if you have a level head and you have a good grasp on what you have control over and what you don't have control over, you tend to be a nice soothing force. Most of my red-pilled buddies and sailor friends have the same situation. Their wives and their girlfriends are for the most part very angry that their frenemies and their female friends and co-workers are completely panicking. And they're oftentimes being the passive force or calming force, letting them know that things aren't as bad as they think, things are going to be fine. Here's some data, you can look up more if you really want to see some things happening, and just stay away from the news. So the beauty about being the calming force in your own life is that it has a radial effect. You're going to be calm, you're going to have your things together, you're going to understand the things you can't change aren't really worth a second thought from you, and the people around you, your family and your friends, are going to start being that towards other people. It's amazing how desperate the world is right now for masculinity, because when you practice even a little bit of it, it just extends everywhere. In the same way you're turning down the heat on the outside world, you're going to turn down the heat on this. You want it at a medium heat so you don't end up burning the rice. Let's work on the sauce right now. This is from what I understand, it's a fairly standard Canton style. 1/4 cup measurement here for 2 cups rice. You want to add a normal soy sauce, about halfway full. What you want to do now to add a little bit of a smokiness to it is you're going to add a dark soy sauce. Not very much, just like a tablespoon. Splash of honey. Again, you can see here, I'm basically eyeballing it. And then you want to add a little bit of sesame oil. I add just enough to where it coats the surface here. But once you get a handle for the taste, you're going to be able to adjust it in the way you see fit. Bottle's a bit tricky here, but we're working with what we got. Then at the end, something that you wouldn't normally think of, a little bit of black pepper. Trust me, it works pretty good. If you want to go super spicy, add some bird peppers to this. And then, if you notice there, a touch of butter. I know it doesn't make sense, but whatever, it seems to work. Since you're working with day-old rice here too, you notice it's fairly clumped like this. So just add it on top of the vegetables while you're at a nice low simmering heat. Pour that sauce you just made over top, and now we're just gonna beat the crap out of it. The idea is you want to get all those clumps out, and then give it a nice quick stirring through. You know you're doing this right, by the way, and you're gonna see once I start giving it that final mix. Once you see that it's got a slight coating on the bottom of it, but there's no extra liquid there. Anytime you're doing any kind of stir fry, that's what you want to have with your sauce. They consider that a well-made sauce, well-proportioned. This is the part where you get fancy if you want to, by the way. All that little fancy stir fry technique, giving it the stir, giving it the flip. Do it if you want to show off, but it doesn't really matter. Back to the topic at hand. If you'll notice, every time somebody talks about this, what they're usually doing is arguing with any type of sensible perspective. The one thing they're not doing is giving any alternative options or even just saying what's available for you to do. So people just panic. And when they panic, they want you to panic because it makes them feel validated for their panic. Something you're going to notice by being calm and level-headed in these, troubling times is that other people are going to be fairly angry because you're reflecting their weakness back on them. If you have good frame, don't worry about it. Have a good laugh on it. Just realize your tribe is the people that you've decided are worth a damn in your life, and they're the only ones you need to worry about. Let everybody else burn. In fact, chances are with their panic selling on the stock market, there's a good chance you're going to be able to find some good buys right now if you had some liquid cash sitting around. And if not, well, pay attention to what the signs are because they're going to have another one of these events sometime soon. They always do. And when they do, you'll be able to see and recognize these things for what they are and get ready to make yourself some fried rice and set your family up for thriving and surviving in the future. On that note, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Enjoy a nice Canton style fried rice. Make sure to be that calm force, be the oak in the life of those around you, and your gifts are going to end up spreading around to everybody else. So on that note, take care and go have some fun, sexy times with the girl or the wife or whoever's living at your house. Cheers.